Good evening. I'm here with screencast for Module 3 on problem-based learning. For the book questions, I chose 4 to answer. The first one is, what is inquiry education as defined by Burrell? Burrell defines inquiry education as a process that resolves questions, curiosity, doubts, and uncertainties about complex phenomena in life. What are the steps in problem-based learning? There's essentially 3 that the book mentions. It's first, the teacher presents students with a problem to solve. Then step 2 is there's a teacher-student shared inquiry where they talk about questions related to the problem that they're trying to solve. And then step 3 is student-directed learning, where student becomes self-directed learner. The third question that I chose to answer is, how can we encourage more student interaction and discussion? I know this is a big focus in my school, and we want to get students using the language orally, because I know we do it a lot in writing, but we want to get them talking. Something that I read in the book, which is a great tip that I plan to utilize, is use good follow-up questions to further their thinking and have the learning not stop as I answer the question or they answer each other's questions, but have good follow-up questions to extend the learning. Also, ask other students to respond to a student's question instead of the teacher being the one that always responds to students' questions. Use small group to help students be less shy. That I do notice that the shyer students that would not raise their hand in a whole group discussion do participate much more in small groups. Discussion guidelines created by students. It has to be a conversation that takes place as to what a good discussion sounds and looks like, and then guidelines will come from there that the class will follow. And finally, encourage students to respond to each other. These are just some sentence frames that the book suggested. I use sentence frames in my classroom. I have them at the supply bins of every table, so that students can just look at them or pick them up, and if they don't know how to word something, that can aid them in speaking. And the fourth question is, what are some of the ways that students can self-assess? And I was really interested in this because this is an area of growth for me as an educator. I would like to facilitate this for my students. So Burrell is a big advocate for using thinking journals where students will share their learning on the subject, but also their problem-solving abilities. Other ways that are suggested in the book is concept maps, folders and portfolios, and even letters to home that they write to their mom or dad, or whoever takes care of them, about what they're learning in class. My definition of problem-based learning is the following. It's an inquiry-based approach to education where students are at the center of every lesson. So it's student-centered, not so much teacher-centered. And my vision of a problem-based unit or project-based unit is I'm the facilitator, I'm the guide, but I'm not at the center of the learning. The students are at the center of their own learning. Through project-based or problem-based learning, students learn about the subject by finding a solution to a real-world problem. This approach allows students to practice and improve their problem-solving abilities, which are so very much needed for our life here on Earth, as the book says, which is full of challenging opportunities to learn, grow, and reflect. So distinguishing the two, I read the article that was posted in Module 3, and it really helped me understand something that I kind of was already thinking, but this confirmed that my thinking was correct. Problem-based learning is a subset or stems from project-based learning. I was trained on project-based learning at the school where I work because they wanted to go in that direction. And as the book or the article stated, it derives from, project-based learning derives from the work of John Dewey. And it has an extended project at the heart of the unit. It is commonly used in K through 12 education. It could take several forms, such as problem-based learning and other many versions that they listed on the website. There's one, I think, that's called challenge-based learning, but it's inquiry learning. Any category that stems, or any version that stems from project-based learning, is inquiry learning. And I was surprised to find out that even Socratic seminars are a version of inquiry-based learning, and I do quite a few of those in my class. Like I said, modern versions of these concepts have been derived from project-based learning, and they all, like I just said, fall under the category of inquiry-based learning. Problem-based learning is more commonly seen in post-secondary education, such as medical schools, versus K-12 education. But from the videos that the professor has shared on Module 3 and the articles we've read, it seems like problem-based learning is becoming more common in K through 12 education. Problem-based learning follows more prescribed steps versus project-based learning, and it aims to find a solution to a problem. But overall, there's not much conceptual difference between project-based learning and problem-based learning. And finally, how can we infuse student inquiry into the curriculum? There's quite a few ways. Well, I'm going to start with this one down here because this is what we do at our school. So we write NGSS units of study for science, and we always start with an essential question that will guide the unit. So it not only helps us keep focus on what we're learning, but essentially we're working on learning the subject matter, but also to answer that essential question that is directly related to the real world. And also another way to infuse inquiry is to tackle authentic real world problems that either the teacher has embedded in his or her unit, or that students bring up, and then we can take it from there. But as I was reading in the book, we have to determine what topics are most important for understanding, because this inquiry, embedding inquiry into the curriculum and taking the time to answer those questions and do the research does take up time. So we do have to, as the guides and the facilitators for the unit, us as teachers, we do have to decide what would be the most important topics to dedicate time to. We want to encourage creativity, especially if it has anything to do with maybe math, science, engineering, where students can create a blueprint of the solution to the problem or a project, and just let them run free with their creativity as much as possible. We also want to plug in some of the students' interest. We want to spark curiosity by encouraging students to generate their own questions as they may come up throughout the unit. And that has been all for Module 3. It was overall great, and thank you for providing us with this information. Have a good night.